Now, today we are talking about expectations versus expectancy. And this was something that was beautifully unexpected. I was recording a podcast with one of the most beautiful creatures on the planet, Darcy Benincosa. I will introduce you to her later on when that podcast is released. She is just the most incredible, giving, manifesting, grounded, rounded, beautiful human being. I'm quite a super fan. And we were chatting on her podcast, and I found myself saying, because she was asking for advice on how we can stay centered and how we can create, but from a place of being centered. And I found myself saying, well, it's all about letting go of expectations and instead sitting in a space of expectancy. And we both went, where did that come from? I've never said that in my life. But the minute I said it, I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. I've actually coined what it is that I do since learning how to just sit in the present moment. And here's my theory on this. Expectations for me are almost a guarantee of disappointment, whereas expectancy increases my faith every day, increases my self-esteem, increases my awareness, increases my feelings of flow and love and connection with the universe. Having expectations shuts all of that down. So for me, there's a real expectations versus expectancy vibe in my universe. And I just thought I would share that with you this week and see if it sheds a light on anything to you. And maybe you even have that experience too. So expectations versus expectancy. Let's delve into expectations first. For me, what I've noticed with expectations is there's always an element of control. Have you noticed that? Give me a thumbs up if you've noticed that when you have an expectation, you've also noticed that there's an element of control. And what I mean by that is that we have it's a system. It's not necessarily a brilliant system, but we have a system in our minds that always wants to future perfect. So the mind says, I can be happy, peaceful, enjoy my life, experience love, accept myself, fill in your own blank there, my love, when ... And after the ... we create an expectation. And the expectation could be when I've got that job, when my boss says these certain things to me, when my husband does these 3 things that I'm holding out they're gonna do, when my children do ... when my pet does ... We have all of these judgments and expectations that we project into the future and then tell ourselves that we're not allowed to experience all the good feels and everything that we want to experience until that plays out as expected. And now tell me if this is not true. You then reach that future event, and what you're doing is looking through this very, very narrow lens and filter to check and see if your expectation is coming true. So for example, let's say you have an expectation of getting a promotion at work. So what you do is you imagine forward the meeting with your boss, right? And you're like, I know that I will feel really valued and supported by my boss when she says this about my work, I get this score on my evaluation, and I get this pay rise. Expectation. But then you go into the meeting and she doesn't say that, and you don't get that score, and you might not get that pay rise. And what we tend to do is make the world very black and white with an expectation and just go, well, get all then. I didn't get, my expectations weren't met. And now what do we experience? Disappointment. Disappointment, we feel rejected, we feel undervalued, we feel that life just hasn't gone our way. But what's maybe happened is that we've come into a situation with a very narrow view of what our potential outcome could be. Let's move it away from the working world and put it maybe in the dating world. You might perhaps, if you're single, or still looking, I don't know your life, you get an invitation to a wedding, and there's always an expectation at weddings, which kind of makes me giggle, that we will meet somebody. So maybe you go along to the wedding and you buy the dress and you've got the shoes and you've had your hair done and you're all ready to go and meet Mr. Right at this wedding. And of course, what do? You walk into the wedding, we've all been there, and you scan the room. And I don't know about you, but the amount of times I've done that at weddings, and it's Coupleville. I don't know why I don't know why we have this expectation that we're going to meet somebody else single at a wedding. I mean, certainly by the time you're my age, they're all paired off and you're like kind of at the lost auntie table because they didn't know where to stick you because you're not there in a couple. Every other person there seems to be coupled up. And if you had an expectation of finding your love match at that wedding, well, are you going to enjoy the wedding now? No, you're disappointed. You're in a new fancy dress. Where are the guys or the girls or whatever you're into? You know, like, expectation not met equals disappointment. I have found something interesting with expectations, because I would say that whenever I've had a positive expectation, like this is how the meeting will go, this is how I will be spoken to, this is how my friends will treat me, it's never really increased my joy in life. It's just narrowed it and actually limited my options for freedom and enjoyment. However, here's a perverse and weird thing, and I don't know the quantum science behind this, but what I've discovered is that if I have a negative expectation, for example, like, oh, that person's always mean to me, or I always have to work harder than other people, or I'm always treated like second best, for some reason, those expectations always seem to come true. Which is a little bit frustrating, because it's like, if I'm able to manifest perfectly everything that I don't want, why have I not been able to manifest perfectly the things that I do want? If that rings true with you, if you have experienced having a negative expectation consistently come true, go ahead and type in the comments or just give me a thumbs up so I know I'm just not the only one smoking this pipe over here. I also notice that when I have an expectation of any kind whatsoever, it puts me into a very black and white world of yes or no, because I'll be at that party, for example, looking around to see if my expectations of what it was going to be like are met. And that's a very narrow question. Is this meeting up to my expectations? It's either yes or no. And usually in life, when we have a very, very fixed, strong expectation of something, it's not met because we don't get to control the universe with our minds in the future like that. So this has been my dance with expectations. So now let's go to the other corner and talk about expectancy. And this, my loves, is what I call the secret sauce, not so secret because I'm giving it away here for free, of manifestation. I have discovered that if I'm able to allow myself, can you even hear me talking now, that when I was talking about expectations, my mind was so incredibly engaged, and now just talking about expectancy, where I'm talking to you has completely dropped into my heart. Isn't that cool? It just feels so much more open and soft and a rounded, gorgeous place to be, to talk about sitting in expectancy. And that's, let's use those two examples. Sitting in my career in an expectancy that I will be respected, valued, and deeply rewarded for my work. Doesn't that feel different? And heading off to that wedding or any social event with the expectancy that I am deeply loved, held, and supported in all relationships, and even allowing myself to sit in the expectancy, as I did for many years before I met Patanjali, that he was on his way. The expectancy that he's on his way. No expectations about when, who, how, you know, the nitty-gritty details. No expectations, just expectancy. And I'd love for you to play with this and let me know if there's a shift in head to heart for you when you move between the world of expectations and into the world of expectancy. And the reason that I say it increases my self-esteem and faith and feelings of flow and love is that I find when I sit in a place of expectancy, one, I tend to get it. I tend to get what I expect from that place. If I expect love, I get it. If I expect flow and reward and abundance, they just come and come and come from all kinds of different places, because I don't have these narrow mind filters anymore trying to dictate where these beautiful things can come from. It's a much more receptive, dare I say, feminine. Of course, you can be a man and sit in this feminine energy too. Very feminine, receptive, and open place to be. It's very full moon, people. Just 2 more weeks and we can sit in that place. So I would love for you to play with this and see if that is your experience too. Do you shift into your heart? Do you shift into a more divine feminine energy? Do you shift into a place of being open and willing to receive all the things without the labels and judgment and kind of harshness that an expectation has? So that's the conscious check-in this week, to play with expectations versus sitting in expectancy. And what I'd love for you to do, if you're playing along now or playing along now on the replay, is go ahead and type in the comments below an expectation that you're willing to shift into an expectancy. So maybe you've got an expectation of being respected at work, which is nothing wrong with that in itself, right? However, your mind now is going to be constantly looking out. Am I being respected? Am I being respected? And it becomes a very black and white yes, no game. Whereas if you sit in the expectancy of being seen and held and respected by all fellow humans on the planet, oh, first of all, that just makes me breathe. That makes me breathe into a different place in my body. And I'd love for you to play and see if it also allows you to receive into a different place in your body. So what expectations are you willing to let go of? And what expectancy in your beautiful, divine, feminine, receptive power are you going to allow yourself to sit in? It's been gorgeous to share this space with you. Thank you so much for playing along with expectations versus expectancy. I will be back next week. What are we going to talk about next week? What are we going to talk about next week? Oh, it's completely flown out of my head. I will make a post about it very, it came, your uniqueness. I got super inspired this morning on this theme. So next week's conscious check-in is going to be about your unique flavor and why you, my love, all of it is needed on the planet right now more than ever. I love you more than you'll ever know. Have a gorgeous week. I will see you on Tuesday, by the way, right here for the Clear the Fear Challenge. Look out in your email because I'm about to send you a workbook. Enjoy. Bye-bye.